All right, welcome back to the Tour Breakaway. Very exciting episode today because joined with a special guest, rider for EF Education-NIPPO, Will Barta.
All right.
Will, thanks for joining today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So I know that you're from Boise, Idaho, but you're living out in Nice. What's going on in Nice these days?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, not too much. Yeah, really just riding and training, to be honest. We have curfew here. So you have to be inside by 6 p.m. Till 6 a.m. So pretty much, yeah, it's not too much going on, which is not so bad when you're a cyclist.
Sure. And so who's out there right now? And like, what's the living arrangement? You live by yourself or you live with other riders? What's going on?
Yeah, so I live with also Matteo Jorgensen. We're both from Boise, actually. And yeah, we've known each other since we were maybe 9 or 10 years old. So it's kind of a crazy story ending up both being professional cyclists and living together. So yeah, we live together. And then there's also Joe Dombrowski, Larry Warbass, and Colin Joyce also all live in Nice. So it's a small but yeah, good cycling community of Americans. And then yeah, there's, with Monaco being so close by, there's tons and tons of pro riders here.
So is the riders that you just listed off, is that kind of the group ride on a regular basis? How does that go?
Yeah, it's these days, everyone is, especially this time of the season, everyone's really focused on their own training and doing their efforts right and everything. So it's a bit more of a focused training than group rides, I have to be honest. Sometimes there's a big group, but usually it's a mix of 2 or 3 guys or just by yourself. But yeah.
Sure. And so do you bump into other riders on the other side of the hill? So in Monaco, I think like Peter Sagan, he trains out there. Sometimes Richie Port's over there. Do you see those guys?
Yeah, I think there's almost 50 riders that live in Monaco, actually. So it's quite a few. So yeah, I would say it's more regular to see another pro out training than to go on a day where you don't see anybody, actually. So
yeah,
it's
yeah. What's like do you give it like a nod? Is there a hand flick? What's like the pro to pro nod look like?
I mean, I still like to wave. I always think waving's nice. I think it's a little different though, coming from the US, because there's so few riders that you can wave to everybody. But here you kind of, you're waving quite a bit, especially if you do it to every rider, which I still try to, because I think it's nice to be inclusive. But yeah,
sure.
A wave is my go-to, I would say.
Love that. That's awesome. And how's the French?
I actually don't speak very much French at all, to be honest. It's quite embarrassing, actually. When I first moved here, I was trying to learn French, but also my girlfriend is Norwegian, so I was trying to learn Norwegian at the same time. And so when I tried to do both, I had this really messy jumble of both. I focused on the Norwegian first, trying to get it down for my girlfriend, and then my New Year's resolution this year is to learn French, at least a little bit. So, well,
in Nice, you can kind of get away with it, just given how much of a tourist center it is.
It's really international. And then also, I would say every time I speak French, I get English back, to be honest, because they can tell it's not very good.
Sure. And how long have you been in Nice? How many years have you lived there?
The first year I came here was 2016, just for 3 months. I came here with Adrian Costa then. And then the next year I started living here more full time in 2017.
Yeah. Does it feel like home? Is Boise surely will always be home, but
it feels quite nice. I feel quite comfortable here. So for cycling, it's one of the best places to be in the world, I think. So it definitely feels nice that way. I mean, obviously I miss my family and my friends at home, but it's a place I know quite well by now, and I feel quite comfortable here.
Sure, absolutely. So I see it looks like a pink shirt. I'm guessing that's an EF shirt. So
yeah, exactly.
How's it been to join up with EF this season?
Yeah, it's been really, really nice. I've been, I haven't actually spent a single day with them in person because I had a crash and an injury, but all the communication, everyone I've talked to on the phone, and all the guys I know from the past, it's all been really super so far.
Yeah. And you go back with a lot of these guys, like from the Merckx team. I think you rode with, Nielsen back then, Almeida, Jasper Philipsen, all these guys. So
yeah, it's quite a history of riders that are, not just a history, but at least they're still riding, but a group that's really progressed in the sport for sure.
How's that been to see, like, just I know many of you are on different teams. I mean, Nielsen now on EF, but seeing Almeida, I mean, he's ripping it right now at the UAE Tour. Nielsen looks awesome at the UAE Tour. He just looked really great today. How's it been to see all these guys? And Philipson, actually, he was riding in the Vuelta, I believe, with you, and he took a stage.
Yeah.
How's it been to see everybody just progress from those early days as kind of neo-pros?
Yeah, it's super cool to see. I mean, those are the guys that I still talk with the most in the peloton for sure. And so I would consider them like my closest friends probably in the group. So it's really, really nice to see them all taking these big steps. And also it gives you a lot of motivation because when you see your peers, really your true peers, you feel like doing so well, you feel like, oh, it's really possible for me to take those steps and be at that high level.
Totally. And I mean, going back to those days, and I think you first joined that team in, was it 2015?
Yeah, 2015.
What was your like outlook on the cycling world? Like, what were your goals for yourself, stepping into that first kind of real contract?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about back then. I definitely think my goals were to be the best cyclist I could be. And I think when I look back, I think when I was first under 23, I kind of thought I'd progress more quickly through the under 23 ranks and become pro maybe as a second or third year under 23. But I stayed all 4 years, and I'm happy I did because I learned a lot. But yeah, I mean, the goal was always to be a pro and to try to be the best pro I could be.
Sure. I mean, now moving over to EF, I feel like EF, people kind of sleep on EF. Like, you guys have an awesome team. And I know you mentioned you haven't spent much, any time in person yet because of the varying circumstances, but like, what's the vibe on the team? What are kind of the goals? Like, what's your outlook on the team for the year?
Yeah, it's been the energy of the team is super good. I think I watched that the last 2 years being on CCC and watching it from the outside. And then, after I signed, I mean, it's been, really a positive experience for me because they really are always communicative. And also, I think the thing, people look at it from the outside and they see the alternative calendar and the crazy jerseys and everything, but it's also, I think they really have an eye on performance. And I think that's really, people underestimate that, like you said. And since I've joined, I've really seen just quite how detail oriented they are. And I think it's a team that's really, the last couple of years, it's been growing back to like a powerhouse type team. And I can see why now being part of it, and I'm excited to grow with it.
Absolutely. So what did happen with the Duck jerseys? So was that just for the one race and now they're gone, or were you able to like sneak one of those kits in the pack when you transferred over?
No, I was hoping to. So that was just for the Giro, I think, because of the pink, or I don't know exactly why. But yeah, I was wishing, because I mean, all my non-cycling friends were sending it to me because it was like the collaboration with Palace. And I mean, also if you look at, also just when you look at the resale value of that stuff, it's clearly very wanted. And I mean, for me, I've known what Palace is, and to see them step into cycling is just super cool. Yeah.
I saw them going on. I mean, they might have even gone for more, but I saw them upwards of like $600 just for the jersey.
Yeah, just for the jersey. Yeah, it's crazy. And I think actually some of the casual wear is even more.
Oh, really?
So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I think so.
That's awesome. A lot of people kind of gave some flack on the jerseys this year. I think they're pretty sharp, personally.
Yeah, I think they're really nice, and they really look nice in person. I think they're nice because you can see them first and foremost from a racing perspective, from the helicopter and everything. But then also they have a lot of nice details, and every time I put it on, I'm actually kind of discovering new little details on it because there's just so much going on.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you've met some of the guys on the team. Certainly there's a tremendous amount of personality on the team. I mean, I think of guys like Rigoberto or Ron. I mean, just so much personality. Who have you met on the team? Like, who's the funniest guy on the team?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up, or not grew up, but I mean, I raced on Action with Ruben and Nielsen. And then also I know Lawson a bit just because he's another American, and he's not that different in age from me. So to be honest, I don't really know many of the other guys at all. So it's going to be new and exciting. Also, the trainer I had as an under 23 is also there. So I would actually say he's probably the most funny guy I know on EF. He's a super funny guy. His name's Nate Wilson.
Nice.
So but I mean, they're all fun and great guys that I know there.
Awesome. So, I mean, looking at this season, and I definitely want to kind of get into how your recovery's going and all that. just like zooming out on the whole cycling scene. I mean, last year, this time, actually literally this time, because it was during the UAE tour that everything shut down or started shut down. Then they got, most of the way through Paris-Nice. But there was both at this point in the season and then upon the restart where it was like, okay, we're just going to race like it's our last race because we don't know if this is going to stick. Is that the feeling again this year, or does it feel different?
Yeah, I think now it's settled back more into maybe being kind of like a regular season. I think if you asked 1 month ago, it was really seeming like it was going to be another crazy season with cancellations and postponements. So I think if you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said, yeah, it's going to be just crazy and take every race as you get it. And I think you saw that in the early races also, because there was lots of crashes and just really hard racing. So, but I think it's looking pretty okay from what I can tell and from what I hear from the guys at the races. I mean, I think the fact that UAE is going on, and I guess you probably saw there was the positive case with Alpecin.
Yep.
But it's not like quite the same as last year where the whole peloton was locked in a hotel for, a week. So I think everyone's learning more how to race within the pandemic. So I think it's looking good. I think, it's also, when you look at it financially, I hope all the sponsors, do okay through it also. I think that's another big stress on all the riders, but
sure.
I think it looks more promising than last year at least. So
yeah. And I mean, certainly you felt that last year, knowing relatively early on that CCC would not be renewing their deal. Now going kind of back into the end of your season and to now, you really left that Vuelta on a big high. I mean, that the time trial obviously, of course, was just such a highlight to have you in the hot seat, only to be by 1 second by Roglic. And what was that like? And also, like, what was your goal going in? Because you also ended up 22nd overall in the GC. So like, how did that whole race play out for you, both going in and your expectations there, and then the result?
Yeah, I would say in the past, I've always viewed myself as the GC rider. But obviously when you take the step into the World Tour, first you need to learn how to be a good helper. So that's what I was doing most of my time at CCC. And so going into the Vuelta, we had Simon Geschke and Jan Hurt, who really were supposed to be helping. And of course I had kind of a free rein for the time trial. But then quite quickly, it seemed like Simon and Jan weren't, I wouldn't say necessarily at the level, but they just had a really long, short in time, but really heavy racing schedules. So they just weren't quite up for being a leader in that. So both me and Georg Zimmerman were kind of given a green light to go for the breakaways and also the GC. And I went in the breakaway one day, but it really didn't get anywhere. And it kind of just chipped away and was, eventually kind of up there in GC, but made some mistakes and was caught out a few times. So, it was 22nd, but it wasn't like, I still was 50 minutes down. It was a big difference than being up there fighting, but It was a good step for sure. And then obviously the TT was a big goal, and I still hadn't signed a contract for the next year. So, it was really about keeping the dream alive. And also I just really liked time trialing. And so I wanted to, even if that was it, I wanted to really give it everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at that course, there was a couple monster climbs on that course, like the Angliru and the Covatia. Like which one of those like brought you down to your knees?
Definitely the Angliru. Yeah, that is. It's crazy, to be honest. I don't know how to describe it. I've never done a climb like that, and I think I was dropped at like 5 or 6K to go, and just to get up, it was. You wanted to just take a break because it's so steep. And it's not regular. It's always switching a little bit, so you never really find a rhythm, and you're just creeping. So it was. It's quite the climb, I have to say.
I watched that one with like zero envy of you guys.
I think it's maybe a little nicer also when you have fans that can give you a little push, or even just for the motivation. It's a little nicer than when you just have, it's just bare.
That's a great point. What was the difference in feeling in the environment racing the Vuelta in 2020 versus your first time in 2019, from that angle?
Yeah, it definitely has a it was a big difference with this without the audience. Also from 2019 to 2020, I had also some health issues, so it was a bit of a challenge to get through. But with the audience, it makes a big difference because it almost feels like you're doing, I don't know, like a local race in the U.S. because maybe as Americans we're kind of at an advantage because no one watches our bike races that much anyway, so we're used to it. It was definitely nuts. It doesn't feel like your childhood dream, because you dream of racing through, these fans and everything. But it also for me, it was kind of, you're totally able to focus on what you're doing. And I enjoyed both experiences and they're just very different.
Sure. Speaking of the mention of American racing, I'm still super bent out of shape that the Amgen TOC has gone away seemingly indefinitely. And I know you raced there back in, I think, 2016, and you look at the results recently, Pogacar and Bernal both won that and then won the Tour de France a year later. It's like, how can we get rid of this thing?
Yeah, it's really sad with the racing in the US at the moment. So I'm hoping, that there hasn't been that much talk about what is going to happen with Tour of California, whether it's a couple of years or exactly what's going to happen. So I really hope it can come back, because I think also for the next generation of American riders, also when you're really young, it's motivating to see, like, as a fan, and gets you interested in the sport. But then also as you get older, it's really a good way to prove yourself and find your way up to the high level.
Totally. Yeah. So then coming out of the time trial and the Vuelta, like, how did that day in particular, like the time trial day, change your mindset? And maybe if not immediately after you were then like really validated by getting the contract with EF.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say it made me feel much more like I belong at the high level of the sport, and more comfortable with what I'm doing and how I prepare, and just that I have a upward trajectory, I would say. So it was really motivating for me. Obviously it really helped with signing for a new team for the next year, but also just, for my own confidence as a racer, I would say that whole Vuelta was really, trying to changed my mindset quite a bit to kind of, seeing myself more as a top rider. I still have a ways to go, but definitely when you can be up there day after day, you feel like you have a good future.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, and this might be just my perspective, but a lot of factors can play into winning a road stage. But when you're lining up for the TT, it's brute force. It's your engine, and so there, it's like, can't fake that one. That's just like brute strength. So well done.
No, for sure. So, thank you.
So the next question, and I was kind of wondering, because I read about your crash, and I'm like, why is he in Norway? So now that sort of gets answered with what you said. Your girlfriend's Norwegian.
Yeah, my girlfriend's Norwegian, so we spend quite a bit of time there. So, so that's why.
That makes sense now. The I don't want to make light of it, but the situation sounded like it was just like almost like a comedy of errors. It's like a little dachshund runs out of the woods.
Yeah, it's no, it was really, so I was training. It was, December 23rd, so just before Christmas. One last training ride before Christmas, and it was a road that I ride, I don't know, almost every day when I'm there, because it's really close to where my girlfriend's parents live. And I just stopped from going to the bathroom, and I was just going, and this little tiny dachshund just ran. It was where the road is right on the trees, so the trees come right up, so you can't see anything. And it was so low that I didn't see it until it was right there. And then I slammed on my brakes, and I just slid a bit, and it was really nothing crash. I was going about 30 kilometers an hour, no road rash, no anything. I thought, it's kind of embarrassing. I crashed. I'll probably just ride to my girlfriend's parents' house and ask if they can drive me home, though, just because kind of over it. And I just couldn't quite get up. And I I broke my right femur in 2018. So I kind of knew then that it was probably
an
something pretty bad.
Unfortunately familiar.
Exactly. So then, so spent a week in the hospital, had a surgery.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a really big bummer.
Yeah. So today's Feb 23rd. So just about two months to
exactly
later.
2 months.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. It's not many people have this, but I can kind of compare it to the last time I broke my femur. So it's so it's going quite okay actually. I was able to get on the trainer like a week and a half, 2 weeks after I had the operation. So I mean, it was only 30 minutes getting the movement, but yeah, the range of motion is quite good, and now it's just about really getting the strength back. So I'm working with the physio 3 times per week and training about 15 to 20 hours a week on the bike now. So yeah, it's still, I wouldn't say I'm there, but it's on the right track.
Yeah. And what is like a full load peak pre-season hours in the saddle?
Around 28, 30, I would say.
Yeah.
Probably.
Do you recall like what's the most you've ever done in a week ever?
Probably a week in the Vuelta is probably like 33 or 34 hours.
Wow. and full on to boot. So
yeah, exactly.
So actually kind of a less serious cycling question, but so when you finish the Vuelta, what's like the number one meal that you're looking forward to that you're just like, I can't wait for this one?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of an embarrassing thing, but after a big race, I quite like McDonald's, to be honest.
All right, and what's the go-to there?
A Big Mac or 2, and some and some fries. Yeah, it's really the only time. I don't know. It's like the relief of doing it, like because you're focused, and it's like the exact opposite of what you should be doing almost when you're a cyclist. So. But not opposite, but I mean, you can have some food, obviously, but like it's junk. So I quite like that, to be honest.
That works. Do you ever go kind of alternative menu, McRib or chicken nuggets or anything like that?
I like the chicken nuggets too. Yeah, actually quite a bit. So yeah, it's usually after something like the Vuelta. Some chicken nuggets and Big Mac. Maybe probably 2 Big Macs and some fries. Yeah.
And before you even get to the end, so now, and I saw one of the documentaries from a couple years ago where I forget who they were following. It might have been Orica Scott at the time. I don't know. There's a documentary where they followed one of the teams, but it was really focused on like the cuisine and like the chef.
I watched this.
What was that? Orica Scott? Back when they did?
Yeah, it was Orica Scott.
It was Orica
I think
Scott.
Hannah Grant was the chef.
So how curated is the cuisine that you guys had, last year? Well, probably more like 2019 when it probably had to worry about less restrictions, but like what is the whole meal approach during a Grand Tour?
Yeah, actually that didn't change at all because I think every team has a chef travel with us. So that's also why I can say Big Mac, because we have super good food the whole time, and so it's like it's usually some sort of pasta. You eat so many carbs when you're doing a Grand Tour, and then so when you wake up, you usually have an omelet, some oatmeal for me, usually maybe like a couple pieces of bread with something on it, and then you do the race. You eat a ton on the bike. And then you finish and usually have something like rice and eggs right as soon as you are on the bus, pretty much. And then, if it's a long drive, you also eat kind of the whole time almost. You're kind of snacking the whole time.
Yeah.
And then you get back, do a massage, and then you go to dinner. And usually, it's mainly the biggest thing you eat is carbs. And then, our chefs were always Italian on CCC, so we always had Italian food. So, and it was always super, super good. And they were really good at changing it up a lot and making different things. So you never got tired of eating. Like you always hear people saying, "Oh, you get tired of eating," but yeah, these days I think the food is so good that they make so on most teams, so it's not really an excuse anymore. And then I usually have some sort of healthy type dessert and then some yogurt before bed, and then start over the next day.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good. What would you eat? So let's say just like a relatively straightforward stage, call it like 150K day for the sprinters. What what would you eat on a day like that during the race?
During the race, so as much as I can, I try to eat more solid type foods. So if it's like a sprint day where it's pretty relaxed, I probably would eat about. Also in a Grand Tour, you have to think also about the day before and the day after. So you're eating quite a bit. So I would probably eat 2 or 3 like bars or gels or rice cakes per hour.
Oh, wow.
So if it's 5 hours, that's 15 to 20, 15-ish. Then you usually have, if it's not too hot, probably one bottle per hour or 2, maybe at most.
That's a lot of gels. You gotta get tired of those. You gotta get tired of those.
Yeah, you get tired of that stuff. To be honest, I mean, it's also again that's where it's really improved. I think from the old times, not old times, but even 5 years ago. I mean, the cycling food is way better than it used to be. So, and also, I would say when you get towards the end of a Grand Tour, definitely you start just using more gels because it's just like you're done. Like you don't have to eat. I mean, it's just so quick.
Yeah, keeps it easy. Awesome. So then, looking ahead to this season, and hopefully, post recovery, do you have a race plan or any agenda for the 2021 season?
Well, I'm hoping to be back racing at Tour of the Alps, which is mid-April. So, the original plan was to do the Giro, but I think that might be pushing it a bit. We'll see. So then we'll just see. I mean, it's kind of, I had a set schedule, but that's really changed quite a bit. So, obviously I think I'll do a Grand Tour, but I'm not sure which one at this point.
Awesome. Well, we'd love to see you out there. If it's not the Giro, the other 2 options are quite good as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't complain.
Yeah, I'd be delighted to see you out there. If you are to start at the Tour of the Alps, do you know who else is slotted in with you?
I don't. I think it's also similar riders probably that were supposed to do the Giro, because that was also my original program. So it's usually quite a bit of a Giro prep race. Yeah.
Cool. So to track you this season, how should people track your progress throughout the year?
Yeah, I'd say probably the thing I update the most is Instagram. So it's Will_Barta. And then on Twitter, it's Will Barta with no underscore. It's kind of messy, but I would say those are the 2 best ways to follow. And I'm trying to be better about posting on them. So hopefully I'll do a good job this year.
Awesome. Anything else you want to cover today?
No, I think that's good. So perfect.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
All the best on your progress and your recovery, and I hope to see you out there, and I'll be tracking you through the season.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Will.